Good morning. We're here today in the beautiful city of Ottawa at the 17th annual CSPC conference. I'm Roshni Srinivas. I'm a climate scientist, and I have here with me today Dr. Eugenia Addy, the CEO of Visions of Science. Good morning, Dr. Addy.
Good morning.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good.
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
How are you enjoying the conference so far?
So far, so good. We just got started. We're, about to get into things, but happy to be here.
Amazing. So we'll get right into it. So from your perspective, where are the biggest gaps in the science and policy research ecosystem in Canada right now, and what do you think we could do to bridge this gap?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest gaps for me right now, as I have attended CSPC for many years and have engaged in this kind of science and policy area, is looking at how we actually get accurate data that also is consistent and has a breadth of what's happening across all communities in science. I do feel like sometimes I know I struggle with having access to data that helps verify even the need for the type of work that we're doing around equity in science. And as scientists, that's ridiculous. So we don't have access to that data, that we're not looking at that. But without that data, how can you go forward? How can you make change if the problem is not validated and it's not there? But we know that the problem exists. We've been saying it for years. So I think the dearth of data that really represents communities is troubling for me. And with that, the data that is here, the things that have been said, the things that we do know, what are we doing about it? How are we funding it? How are we moving forward? And how are we moving from conversation to action? I think those are the biggest gaps for me. And I think that as, for lack of a better word, the climate has shifted publicly, it's getting harder and harder to have these conversations without pushback. So I think we can't lose momentum because what we said is still true, but what are we gonna do about it now?
Yeah, data gaps. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Thank you for that. What do you think Canada needs to really do to truly support the up and coming generation of trailblazers?
Yeah, I think that one thing I'll say about trailblazers, it's so interesting. If we think about the term about blazing a trail, it's literally creating a path that did not exist. And I think my question always is, I love trailblazers. I love being framed as a trailblazer, but I think two things happen. We fail to recognize that the only reason why trailblazers exist is because of paths that were not there before. And so I have a question is like, why is the path not there? Well, why is it not there? Why am I blazing trails? And also, a lot of times trailblazers get recognized after the grunt work is done, after all the failure, the ups and downs, and what it takes to actually do that has already been accomplished, and you kind of get your glamorous award or your accolades. But when you're in the trenches and you're trying to forge a path that is not there, it is incredibly difficult and demanding. And I think that we have a lot of people who are like, could have been trailblazers, but there were things that stopped them or obstacles that got in the way that kind of hindered that progress. So I think that if I reflect on what Canada needs to support trailblazers, I think we need to critically think about, okay, we as a nation, what paths are we creating? And how are we being intentional about those paths, and how are we making it easier for folks to carve out those paths? The thing I do love about trailblazing though is it's the bedrock of innovation. I don't think everything is going to be thought of by everyone. So it allows people to come in and create change in areas where it's not there before. With that though, how are they being supported? How are they being encouraged? How are they being exposed to other folks that are doing that? These are the questions that I have. And I think that Canada, we need to get really serious about what innovation means for us. Because innovation is always about doing something that has never been done before, or doing something that's unique or dynamic. And if we're gonna be at the forefront of that, I think we need to start taking some risks. I think we need to start stepping in and looking at the next generation and really critically investing in them early and often, and moving from talk. Like, I think we talk a lot about, youth are the future. This is, what's going to be the future of science? How are we engaging? And then it's like, okay, so then when the budget comes down, when things come, where are we actually putting that talk into action, and how are we investing?
Thank you for that very thoughtful response. Yeah. So many congratulations on your Trailblazer Award.
Thank you.
What a stellar accomplishment.
Thank you.
I think my question for you is, what does this mean to you personally, and how do you think it's going to shape the conversation around sort of the science and policy landscape in Canada?
Yeah. So if I think about myself as a person and where I grew up in a community that's just been, and in communities that kind of represent this theme of being overlooked and underfunded and not really looked at as one that where STEM innovation would come from. And I had a lot of incredible advocates in my corner that kind of helped propel me and really poured into me and helped me feel like, you know what, you can do this. You can be a scientist. You can go into this field. You can, engage in groundbreaking research. You are smart. You're capable. You have a mind that can, synthesize different things, and you can look at problems really critically. I think I battled constantly with feeling like I can. But also having the resources, like literally tangibly doing that. Because truthfully, if I were to be frank, where I grew up, it was about survival. It was about getting by. It was about getting out of your situation currently. And I think that there are so many folks, especially if we're thinking about the more wicked problems that we don't want to address with housing, with food insecurity, with income inequity in this country. There are people who are dealing with struggles every day. They don't have time to think about the bigger science problems. They're trying to survive. And I think that when people are stuck in this kind of scarcity mindset and this cycle of poverty and how it cripples you from being able to dream big, it's really sad for me, because I think we lose out as a society. Because I got a lot of opportunities from, teachers, different people, different programs that just kind of helped inch me out of that mindset and that life, and helped me say, like, let's do something different. So this award personally for me is like, it's an affirmation of that kind of struggle, but also taking that struggle and applying it to, what does this mean for the community that I grew up with? I think that when I got into science, when I started, doing research and I was in academia, it was easy for me to forget where I came from, but I was not going to do that. And for me, it was like, okay, so I know how I got here, and it was a labyrinth, a labyrinth of obstacles. Do I want that? Do I want that for the next generation coming up? Do I want that for youth that I know are growing up in the similar communities in the Greater Toronto area or across the country? No, I do not. So what am I going to do about it? And is there a path that exists? No. Then we're gonna blaze some trails, because we don't have a choice. So I think for me, this award is such affirmation to that work and that path, and I actually feel so humbled and honored. But I think it's also, I hope that for the youth that we engage, it's an area of inspiration for them to see, like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Because I struggled with feeling like, can I really do this? Like, maybe somebody else more qualified, more, And it's like, no, it's you. So I want youth to feel that when they see this. And I think I want the broader science policy community to recognize that we can't really take our foot off the gas when it comes to the conversations that we're having about access and inclusion. We actually can't. And we're at risk as a country if we don't. So I think for me, this award represents, it affirms work that's been very difficult at times. As I said, I think the award comes after the hard stuff. So it affirms that, the hard stuff was worth it, and that folks recognize you. And I hope that recognition translates into inspiration, but I hope that it also translates into further action as well. Overall, I'm humbled and honored.
Wonderful. Many congratulations.
Thank you.
You've built incredible partnerships around communities and educators and policymakers. Mm-hmm. In your opinion, what have you learned about what makes this work on the ground, this sort of collaboration?
Keeping it real. Like, who you see right now is who you are, like, is who I am. And I think that people are drawn to authenticity and passion, but people are also drawn to action. I know a lot of times in community organizing and collaboration, people want to be able to see that if we're going to do something together, it is going to result in something. And I've always been somebody who takes kind of that integrity of community action very seriously. I want to follow through on what we're talking about. And I won't work with anyone who's not willing to follow through. So I think a lot of these partnerships have come from having real, authentic conversations about the issue and actually having passion to back it up. Like, we're all very passionate about making this work and doing the things that we need to do. So let's come together and do it properly. And let's actually measure and hold ourselves accountable to the impact that we claim that we have, right? So, and not be satisfied with like, okay, bums and seats. I use that term a lot early on in my career because I think that I would see all these numbers of like 1 million youth reached. And I'm like, what does that actually mean though? You know what I mean? That could just be a drive-by. I could have just thrown a little STEM artifact at you. Does that actually, have I reached you? Have I transformed your life? Have I impacted you in a way that's going to actually shape the future? Or do I feel good because you kind of showed up to my program once for 20 minutes? I'm not satisfied with that level of transformation. I'm satisfied with impact. That's real, that's meaningful, that can be measured, and that we can see 4 years to come, and that's rooted in data and evidence. And so I think that we work with partners and we have kind of an affinity to folks who are like-minded in that sense.
I love that. I love that. Mm-hmm. Thank you. So to sort of wrap us up, bring us to the end, I will ask you this. Mm-hmm. What is your opinion of the Canadian Science Policy Centre and sort of like their how they position themselves as like the knowledge hub and mobilization of capacity and as a talent incubator? Like, yeah. What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, you know what? I've been coming to CSPC for years now, and what I've always admired is this ability to just convene a lot of different like-minded policy folks in different spheres, like in different sectors, and also the courage to have conversations that need to be had. You know what I mean? So I think for me, I'm of the opinion that CSPC has really cultivated this interesting community where there's an opportunity to have conversations and collaboration. I think my challenge to CSPC is to how can we take that further? We gather every year, we talk, and then we kind of go back to our bubbles. And and some of those conversations, I know I leave so many CSPCs every year feeling so jazzed, feeling so like, yes, let's do this. And I think that partnership and collaboration does require some infrastructure and some organizing and some communities of practice. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity to continue to build off of what we have, and to really move from a place, I've said this earlier, but move from like conversation to action so that we can, as a CSPC community, not only say that, we gathered around and we talked every year and it was great and we wrote some editorials about it and it was awesome, but we can say this is the impact of what that gathering was. This is a tangible output of what all of that talk was, and these are the metrics and the data that we have to say that these conversations lead to change in this way. I actually believe that it happens. I just don't know if we're measuring it and really doubling down on the impact of this type of gathering. So that's how I feel about it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Addy.
No
So that's Dr. Eugenia Addy, the CEO of Visions of Science, and thank you very much. And We'll see you in the next one.